Hello, friends, and welcome back to Connected Conversations. I'm your host, Adrian Handy, and today I'm going to open a door and talk about things people carry that no one else sees. Something I've observed over my lifetime is that humans carry things. We carry responsibilities, memories, conversations that never happened, questions that never got answered. We carry shame, guilt, resentments. And if we really pay attention, most of the time you'll notice, even in your own life, that no matter what you're carrying, life just keeps moving forward. You still show up to work, you still make dinner, you still go to meetings, the games, the events. And usually from the outside, everything looks fine. But inside, many people are carrying far more than anyone realizes. Now, I'm not saying something is wrong with how you carry life, okay? But we can recognize that life has a way of layering itself slowly over time. Today's conversation is about something most people experience, but rarely talk about. Today, I'm diving into the weight of life we carry quietly. When people think about those hard seasons of life, they often picture dramatic moments like a sudden loss, a major life change, maybe a crisis moment. Those moments absolutely exist. But what I've witnessed is some of the heaviest things people carry don't arrive all at once. They arrive slowly, over time. A little extra responsibility here, a little stress there, someone you care about needing support and you feel guilty saying no. Maybe a job that requires more than it used to. Kids growing up, parents getting older, community responsibilities, bills, schedules, decisions, all of life's adulting things. And none of these things are wrong, friends. In fact, most of them are signs that you are living a full life. But over time, they stack, one layer at a time, quietly. And eventually people look around and realize, damn, I am holding a lot more than I used to. What's really interesting, most people don't complain about it. They just adjust. They shift. They reorganize to hold that weight just a little differently. Many take a deep breath and just keep moving forward. I mean, it's just adulting, right? And from the outside, life can still look effortless. But the truth is, many people are carrying a great deal of life layers in silence with remarkable grace. Sometimes the quiet weight comes from responsibility. Other times it comes from moments that were never fully processed. Things people lived through but never quite had the time to stop and sit with. Maybe a difficult year, a strained relationship, a loss that changed things in ways no one else could see. And sometimes it's simply the accumulation of life experiences. Naturally, the older we get, the more stories we carry. Some joyful, some complicated, some that reshaped us in ways we didn't expect. And most of the time, those stories don't get shared in big public moments. They live in quieter spaces, in late night conversations, in thoughtful pauses, in the way someone responds with more empathy than you expected, because they understand based on something they never talked about too. Sometimes those stories show up in very ordinary conversations. Over the years, I've had moments where someone will start a conversation talking about something simple. Maybe they're talking about work, family, something happening in their day, and then somewhere in the middle of the conversation, there's a pause. You can almost feel the shift. And then they'll say something like, I don't usually talk about this. Or, honestly, I've never actually said this out loud before. And what follows is often something they've been carrying quietly for a very long time. Not because they wanted to hide it, but because life kept moving and they never felt a pause long enough to share. There were responsibilities, people who needed them, things that had to get done. So the story stayed tucked away in the background. And what's interesting is that once someone finally says it out loud, you can almost see the weight shift a little. Nothing dramatic. It's usually just a small release. A reminder that being heard can sometimes make something heavy feel just a little lighter. Somewhere along the way, many of us picked up an interesting habit. When someone asks us how we're doing, we say two simple words: I'm fine. And often we do mean it. I mean, life might not be perfect, but we're managing right now. We're fine. But sometimes those words also mean something else. They mean, I don't want to make this conversation heavy. Or, I wouldn't even know where to begin explaining everything. Or sometimes it is really simple. I'm fine. I'll be okay. And most of us recognize that moment when it happens. You can hear it in somebody's voice. You can see it in their eyes. There's a brief pause where you realize there may be more under the surface wanting to come out. And yet, most of the time, we as the listener just keep moving. Not out of coldness, but out of a respect. Because everyone understands that sometimes people share when they're ready. And sometimes they're simply holding something quietly for now. And sharing seems like too much. One of the things I found life eventually teaches you is this: you really rarely know the full story of what someone else has experienced. The calmest person in the room may have survived something incredibly difficult. The person who always helps everyone else may be carrying a heavy responsibility in their own life. The quiet person may be navigating a season of life that requires more strength than most people realize. And once you see that, something shifts in you. You stop assuming. You listen more carefully. Maybe you offer patience more easily. And compassion becomes less of an abstract idea and more of a daily practice. Because you understand that everyone is carrying something. There is a kind of strength our culture seems to celebrate loudly. The strength of winning, achievement, recognition. But there is another kind of strength that rarely gets acknowledged, in my opinion. And that's the strength of continuing. Continuing to care. Continuing to show up. Continuing to do the work of life, even when things feel uncertain or heavy. This strength exists everywhere. We see it in parents doing their best to guide their children through a complicated world. Friends showing up for each other during difficult seasons. Community members quietly helping hold things together. People who have experienced loss and still choose to stay engaged with life. This strength doesn't come with applause, but in my opinion, it is one of the most powerful forms of resilience there is. So if everyone is carrying something, then the way we move through the world matters more than we sometimes realize. Small things begin to matter more. A thoughtful conversation, a moment of patience, a willingness to ask someone how they're doing and truly mean it. Not to solve their problems, not to fix anything, but to simply remind them they don't have to carry everything alone. Sometimes the most meaningful thing we can offer someone is space. Space to be honest, space to breathe, space to sort through the emotions, space to say what's been sitting quietly in the background of their life. Everyone listening to this has something they're carrying. Some of it may be small. Some of it may be life-changing. But none of it means you're weak. In fact, the fact that you're still here, still showing up, still participating in the messy and the meaningful process of life, that says something about your strength. Sometimes the things we carry shape the way we show up in the world. They shape the compassion we offer. They shape the way we listen. And sometimes they shape the work we feel called to do, which is part of why these conversations and this podcast matter so much to me. Before we close today, here's something to think about this week. What might someone in your life be carrying quietly that you may not see? Is there a small way you could make space for that conversation? Sometimes the most meaningful support we can offer someone starts with simply asking and then listening. This has been Connected Conversations, a place where we slow down long enough to talk about the things shaping our lives. If today's conversation resonated with you, consider sharing it with somebody who might need to hear it. Because sometimes the most powerful reminder we can give each other is this: none of us are carrying life alone.